So, in the interest of alleviating anything that could be considered hypocritical, I am going to address the brutal knockout Taekwondo versus karate video that's floating around. I mean, I kind of felt like Freddie Lee did a good enough job on it, so I didn't want to say nothing. No need for redundancy. But somebody came by my band, one of my band ground and pound videos about MMA. And he mentioned the spinning hook kick. Should that be banned from Taekwondo since you like Taekwondo so much? And I'm like, yeah, that should be banned from Taekwondo. It should have been banned from Taekwondo. In fact, a lot of tournaments, I ain't competing that many tournaments, but I do remember somebody telling me, oh, no lateral head kicks because you can't see them, and no blind techniques because you can't see them. And that lateral, it's called a blind technique because you take your eyes off of the opponent for a second when you throw it. That would have been a banned move back in the day in the tournaments that I was at, local DC area tournaments. People probably still did it anyway, but yeah, ban it. Why not? You could give somebody a concussion, they could fall and hit their head and die. I don't care if it happens to be one of my sports. Ban it. Don't let people do that in competition. Not to the head. What they can do instead, and I'm going to offer a solution, is don't throw the kick full contact to the head. Go through the same motion and then stop it right where it would have made impact. Go through the motion, stop it right where it would have made impact, and key eye to let people know, hey, judges, look at this. This would have been a knockout. That's what you do. Already got a solution built in place, because I've seen people do that. They stop something that would have been a knockout, even if it's like a jump kick aimed at the head. They don't actually make full contact with the head. They cut it about an inch or two near the head, or just touch with the foot and yell. And you stop it. You know, it would have been a knockout. Award on the proper points, keep going. That's what we did in sparring in class with head kicks. You didn't have to necessarily kick the person in the head. But I know why some people would kick the person in the head and actually go ahead and knock them out. Because I remember I had to kick a guy in the head because the judges were spacing and they just did not want to see what I was doing to the guy. And it could have been because he was probably one of their students or in their org, and I wasn't. So they wanted to try to act like I wasn't doing nothing. And I remember this, and I just did a side kick to the head. When they said, see, Juck, I kicked, right? I kicked, but I think I may have done it too fast, because back then I could kick as fast as I can jab. So I kicked him, and the first time, it was perfect control. It landed. I touched his nose and brought my foot back really fast, and if you'd have blinked, you wouldn't have seen it. And he knew it. He stopped because I guess he figured, well, they're going to award the point, right? Nope, they're still standing there. So we went back at it again. So I had to bring my foot back and really just kick him. And I didn't try to make full impact. I just tried to glance his head with it. So I glanced his head, and I had my leg up, and then I did it again. But this time when I pushed on, I didn't really hit his head. I tried to push on his head and get him to lean back by me pushing on his head. So it still wasn't a full, I'm stomping you upside the head with my foot. I had to do that like 3 times in a row for them to acknowledge it. And then they stopped and gave me the point. And you know what? How Freddie Lee talks about how ego gets into the play and stuff with tournaments. I just realized, I think that was the tournament that made me not want to really compete anymore. Because I figured, dang, I got to do all that just to get somebody to acknowledge a point? And we ain't making no money. Now, I paid to be in a tournament. I paid to be in a tournament. I could have been working overtime at a job, or been working a side job and getting paid. Or I could have just been hanging out with my family. So basically, I paid, right? I paid to compete, which was fine. But then I have to risk almost, if not putting somebody in the hospital. And neither one of us going to get any money out of this. Man, forget that. I think that was the beginning of the end of me wanting to compete. But I still take students to tournaments sometimes because I've lost my luster for competition attitude. That's something I think they should mature into. That's not something I'm going to necessarily make a decision for them unless they got a medical condition that I know that competing would, exacerbate. So if they got a medical condition and I know competing is dangerous for them, I'm going to tell them no. But otherwise, I will hope that is a conclusion that they come to on their own eventually. And some of them do, like my daughter. She came to that conclusion on her own. No product for me at all. That's why I don't force kids to compete. I don't force anybody to compete. Now, when people compete, they get rewarded for it. Yes, they do. They dare to venture out in the competition land, they get rewarded for it. But they're not penalized because they don't compete. And if they get into about brown or black belt and they haven't competed ever, and I think they're ready for black belt, I just let them know, you've never competed. So if you decide to run your own club or school and you haven't competed and you want to take your students out to tournaments, that's going to be an area that you're going to have to find a way to work around or work on to prep your students for tournaments if you end up wanting them to do it. Okay, and then it's over. That's it. I just give them a caveat and then we're done. So, long story short, ban lateral kicks to the head. Really think you ought to actually ban all kicks to the head in point fighting. Because a lot of people, they make the argument. Now, I was a teenager when I had said this too. It's like, I'm kicking to the head with my foot, right? Why am I allowed to do this if we're not supposed to do full contact? Oh, Cecil. Everybody does. They still do that to me like I'm a teenager. Oh, Cecil, come on. Everybody can't kick to the head. I can kick to the head. Well, everybody can't kick to the head like you can. So it's really not much of a risk. So therefore, blah, 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 blah. When you get older, you won't be able to do head kicks like that. And that's funny. But they would say that. Funny thing happened to me at the Dillman Karate Camp. No, I didn't get kicked in the head. But they asked the new people to do a form, right? If it was your first time, so I did one. And there's two head level, there are two roundhouse kicks in it. I practiced them at head level. Now, I hadn't warmed up, right? I had not warmed up before I did the form. So I assume I'm going to try to get them up to head level, but they're probably going to come up, at waist level because I haven't stretched out. But that thing called muscle memory must have really kicked in, because when it came in for those kicks, I'd be darned if I wasn't kicking at head level with those things. I was surprised I kicked that high. I was like, wow, I can kick at the head cold with this kick? I didn't think I could still kick that high with the head kick, but I was nervous, and it probably was a little bit of, when you're nervous, you get a little bit of adrenaline. It's like, I'm nervous, it's my first time here, people watching me, but I'm going to still do it. And I went through the form, and those kicks came out at head level with control and everything. So, don't look at a 45-year-old and think that they still can't kick to the head, because some of us can. And there's no need to make full contact to the head with the head kick in point fighting. You could just pull it. Just kick near the head and you'll go kia. That's part of the skill too. That was something that always impressed me was, man, he did that kick. If he'd have connected with that kick, he'd have knocked that guy out. Wow, that's impressive. Look at that control. Look at that control. Look at that skill. And it's still skill. So this begs the question, are we in the martial arts and fans of the martial arts to be impressed by martial skill, Or do we just want to see people beat the sugar honey iced tea out of each other? I think a lot of us are just in it for the latter, to be honest. Because, on that kind of comment somebody left on my Around the Pound video, right? I'm narrow-minded because I want to offer solutions for people to still be able to participate in the sport without compromising the sport, but also without getting concussions. But there's something wrong with me for wanting that. Think about that. How do I turn this off?